Hello and a warm welcome to all of you. We would very much like to start by thanking you for joining this recorded session of Getting to Know Canada and Ontario. Whether you arrived recently or you have been here a while and want a refresher, this webinar is designed to make it easier to get to know your new home as you start your new life. So let us get started. The first segment of the webinar is called Getting to Know Canada. Here you will be given a quick overview of the history, the founding people, and the Canadian geography. Then we will look at Canadian culture, including languages, Canadian values, and the importance of citizen rights. Next, Living in Ontario. This section will provide a snapshot of life here and what makes Ontario unique. And finally, we will introduce Orientation to Ontario, also known as O2O, your go-to program for credible, newcomer-centered information and support. Let us begin with a high-level snapshot of Canada and what helps define it as a country. Canada is a large, diverse country with strong regional identities, but it shares national values centered on inclusion, rights, and community. Think of today's session as a map. Please understand that even though we will not be able to cover each and every detail, we will provide just about enough information of key Canadian landmarks to help you navigate with confidence. One of the best ways to understand Canada is to examine the country's geographical and political organization. As you look at the map, it helps to know that Canada is the second largest country in the world by land area. It is made up of 10 provinces and 3 territories, and each region has its own geography, communities, and strengths. Provinces like Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, and Alberta have their own elected governments who are responsible for many day-to-day services that people rely on, including education and healthcare delivery. The territories. Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut cover much of Canada's north and include many Indigenous communities and cultures, with governance shaped by northern realities such as distance and climate. The key takeaway is that even though Canada is one country, newcomers to the country will find that services and experiences can vary by region. So it is very important to learn about the local system to help you settle with more confidence. With that overview in mind, let us take a step back and explore the historical roots that shaped Canada. So to understand Canada today, it helps to understand how Canada was shaped. This slide highlights 3 broad historical threads often taught in mainstream history: Indigenous peoples, French settlers, and British settlers. It is important to say clearly, Indigenous peoples are the original inhabitants of this land, and their presence and rights are not historical. They are living, ongoing, and central to Canada's identity today. Let us look more closely at Indigenous peoples in Canada and why this knowledge is essential to understanding the country. Indigenous peoples in Canada include First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. Their cultures, languages, and knowledge systems are foundational to this country. Canada is also continuing work toward truth and reconciliation, recognizing the lasting harms of colonization, including residential schools, and supporting actions that move toward justice, respect, and repair. You will often hear a land acknowledgement at public events. It is a way of showing respect for traditional territories and the people connected to them. With that context, I will now share a land acknowledgement aligned with Costy's practice. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of many Indigenous nations, including the nations connected to the area known as Thacaranto. and we recognize treaty holders and the responsibilities that come with living and working on this land. This acknowledgement is not meant to be symbolic only. It is a reminder to keep learning, to listen, and to support reconciliation in practical ways in our communities and workplaces. 2. Help visualize Indigenous communities across the country. Here is a map that highlights linguistic and tribal distribution. And this is the linguistic and tribal distribution of First Nation groups in Canada, the contact period. If you would like to learn more, you can pause the recording and scan the QR code for additional resources, including learning connected to truth and reconciliation. This is also a good time to point out the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's 94 calls to action. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada carried out extensive research, including hearing from residential school survivors, their families, members of their communities, former staff of residential schools, and others. The Commission prepared a comprehensive report on the policies and operations of the schools and their lasting impacts. Everyone is encouraged to review the final report, which includes 10 principles of reconciliation and 94 calls to action that speak to all sectors of Canadian society. In the next few slides, we will shift our focus to present-day Canada and take a look at what life in Canada looks like today. Canada today is widely known as multicultural, diverse, and inclusive. The population is about 41 million, and more than 200 languages and dialects are spoken across the country. What that means in everyday life is you will find communities from all over the world, a wide range of cultural and faith traditions, and many ways to participate, while also learning the shared systems that help society function. Next, we will look at a practical topic that helps many newcomers navigate services more easily. It is the topic related to how the Canadian government works. In this section, we will provide a brief and practical overview of the Canadian government, because understanding who does what makes it easier to access services and advocate for your needs. Let us start with the structure of Canada's system and what those terms really mean. Canada is both a constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy. In simple terms, Canada has democratic elections and laws, and also a constitutional relationship to the Crown. The King is the head of state, and the Governor-General represents the King in Canada. Day-to-day decisions, however, are made through elected representatives and the parliamentary system. Building on that, let us examine how representation works in daily life, both at the federal, provincial, and municipal levels. In Canada, you are represented at 3 levels of government. Federally, you will hear about the Prime Minister and national services. Provincially, in Ontario, you will hear about the Premier and services like healthcare and education. Municipally, your mayor and local council handles things like roads, parks, and city services. When you are looking for help, the key question is, which level is responsible? That one question saves a lot of time. Now that we have covered systems and structures, let us shift into everyday life and culture. In this section, we will cover topics related to Canadian culture. More specifically, what people often mean when they talk about Canadian norms. We will start with language, since it shapes communication, access to services, and community life. Canada's official languages are English and French. In Ontario, English is most common, and French services are available in many areas. French is most common in Quebec. It is also important to recognize Indigenous languages as part of Canada's linguistic heritage. And beyond that, Canada includes hundreds of additional languages spoken at home and in the community. If English or French is not your first language, you are not alone and language support exists. Along with language, landmarks, and shared public spaces, also help us all understand Canada's history and civic life. Ottawa is Canada's capital city, and it is one of the best places to learn about Canadian civic life and history. Parliament Hill is where the federal government meets, and it is at the heart of many national moments. Ottawa is also known for many major museums, the Rideau Canal, famous in winter, and festivals like Winterlude and Canada Day celebrations. These are not just tourist activities. They are ways people build a shared sense of community. Beyond landmarks, culture also shows up in the activities people gather around, such as arts, festivals, and sports. Across Canada, culture shows up through museums, galleries, sports, and festivals. A helpful mindset is, if you want to feel connected faster, you are encouraged to participate, visit a local event, try a community center program, or explore a museum day. Belonging often starts with small, everyday routines. Culture is also shaped by shared expectations around fairness, safety, and dignity. So let us talk about the importance of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Canada's framework and emphasis on human rights matters because it shapes workplaces, schools, and public services. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Ontario's human rights system help protect people from discrimination and support equality and dignity. If you ever feel unsure about your rights, it's okay to ask questions and seek trusted guidance. Knowing your rights is part of building stability. With that foundation, let us look at values and beliefs, what people often mean when they describe Canadian society. Canadian society encompasses a diverse range of cultures and beliefs, but shared values such as equality, respect, and human rights are often prevalent. Family structures also vary. There isn't one template. A useful way to think about Canadian values is not as everyone being the same, but as people trying to live together with mutual respect, representing people from different backgrounds, shared rules, and a commitment to safety and dignity for all. Another area where shared responsibility shows up in daily life is caring for the environment. You will notice environmental habits are a big part of daily life in many communities, things like recycling, composting, and energy conservation. Even if the system feels new at first, you will learn gradually, and it is totally okay to ask your building staff, neighbors, or refer to your city website to learn more about what goes where. It is a small thing that helps you feel settled and confident in your new home. Let us now connect this to family life and community supports that help people feel safe and connected. Families in Canada can be nuclear, blended, or single parent, and there are legal protections for adults and children. You will hear the idea of community safety, like community policing, where the goal is safer neighborhoods through trust, prevention, and support. If you are building your life here, community is one of your strongest protective factors. Now that we have explored Canada more broadly, let us zoom in on Ontario. Ontario is the Canadian province where many newcomers first settle, work, and build long-term plans. We will start with Ontario's people and cultural life and the many ways to build community connections. So Ontario has a diverse population of over 16 million residents. Toronto and other cities boast vibrant film, music, and theater scenes, along with major events like the Toronto International Film Festival. Throughout Ontario, you will find museums, libraries, public events, and community service centers that make it easier to explore, learn, and connect with others. To make Ontario feel even more familiar, here are a few fun facts that highlight its scale and diversity. Now, I would like to share a few fun facts because feeling connected includes exploring and learning the local stories. Did you know that Ontario has major sports teams and big moments in sports history? There are several enormous lakes, in fact more than 250,000 and over 9 million hectares of protected parkland. Ontario is also home to many colleges and universities, and it is a leader in food and agriculture in Canada. These facts reflect a wider point. Ontario is large, diverse, and full of opportunity, whether your next step is education, work, or community life. Along with fun facts, it is also helpful to understand Ontario's climate, since it affects daily routines and planning. So Ontario has 4 seasons, and that can be exciting, and at the same time, it can also be challenging. A practical tip is to plan by season. For example, winter boots and layers make a huge difference, and in contrast, the intensity of the summer heat can also really surprise people. If you are new to the climate, use trusted forecasts and make sure to plan ahead for commutes and appointments, especially in the winter. The good news is that each season also brings its own recreational activities and ways to enjoy community life. The nice part of 4 seasons is that there is always something to do, like outdoor skating, winter festivals, outdoor markets during the spring and summer, and beautiful, colorful leaves to enjoy during walks and drives in the fall months. Trying one small seasonal activity is a simple way to feel like you're participating in community life, not just observing it. So now, let us connect these everyday experiences to what helps people build stability while working and living in Ontario. And when it comes to working and living in Ontario, the goal is stability, and this is something that is built step by step. First, by understanding services, then finding reliable information, and very importantly, by building a support network you can lean on. Here is a tool that can help you do just that. This tool that we will feature next is designed specifically to put reliable information at your fingertips. The tool I am referring to is called the ArriveOn app. Think of it as a practical companion, information you can carry with you. Whether you are navigating services, planning next steps, or looking for reliable guidance in one place, the ArriveOn app gives newcomers quick access to verified information on several settlement topics. Next, let us talk about how to approach the app in a way that feels manageable and useful. So, as you explore the ArriveOn app, start by narrowing your focus on what you need most right now. Maybe it is healthcare access, or schooling or employment supports, or community connections. The important thing to remember is that it is okay if you are not able to do everything at once. Settlement is not a checklist, it is a process. Tools are here to reduce stress and help you make informed choices. And I also want to add that, alongside tools and information, one of the biggest factors in successful settlement is the support network that you build. A support network is one of the most crucial aspects of ensuring a smooth settlement process. Supports can be in the form of people, like a settlement worker, or in the form of daily habits and lifestyle choices, like joining a community group or a library event for newcomers. Participating either virtually or in person in local events can also be very helpful in feeling connected. So, how do you actually begin building that network in a new place? Let us break it down. Start small and stay consistent. Choose one or two places to go back to, like a community center, a language circle, a newcomer program, or a volunteer activity. Over time, repeated friendly contact evolves into familiarity, and familiarity gives rise to a sense of community and a sense of belonging. Community connection is important, and so is well-being. So now is an appropriate time to shift our attention to mental health supports during settlement. Mental well-being is a very important part of the settlement process too. Many people experience stress, isolation, or the feeling of overwhelm during transition, especially while learning new systems, building routines, and being away from familiar supports. This is the reason why O2O offers mental health resources that are practical, culturally responsive, and easy to use. These include a mental health guide, fact sheets on common well-being topics, and webinars that share strategies you can apply right away. The goal of mental health resources is to acknowledge and normalize what you may be feeling, strengthen coping skills, and to hopefully point you to supports that are available for you when you need it. And most importantly, please remember that reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness, and support is available to you in your settlement journey. With that in mind, let us look at the broader program that brings many of these resources together, Orientation to Ontario. I am very pleased to tell you a little bit about the Orientation to Ontario program, also called O2O. O2O is a bilingual program funded by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada and the Government of Ontario. Its purpose is to help newcomers settle in Ontario and make informed choices. O2O resources are accessed over 70,000 times annually by newcomers. COSTI coordinates this program across Ontario. COSTI is a community-based multicultural agency that serves over 51,000 clients annually across 17 locations in the GTA, which helps ensure O2O resources stay grounded in real newcomer needs. The most important message is this: you do not have to navigate alone. O2O exists to reduce confusion, point you to credible information, and connect you to services and supports, whether you prefer web content, tools, or guided resources. To help you take action right away, the next slide shares partner supports and resources with appropriate QR codes that you can explore after the webinar. O2O is delivered with partners across Ontario. You can pause the recording, scan the QR codes, and explore additional O2O resources that match your needs, whether that is information, referrals, or tools you can use right away. And finally, here is how you can reach us if you would like more support after watching this session. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like any assistance or would like to learn more about both O2O and COSTI, we encourage you to visit our website, email the team, or call the number displayed on the screen. We wish you the very best in all your future endeavors and are very pleased to have you with us.